So one of the worst things about being a freelance photographer is knowing how to price your work. And I'm sure it's something that many creative people face because we're not offering a service or a product in a traditional means where this is what you pay and this is what you get. So this is a question that's been raised 4 times this month as well. A couple of clients who are questioning why is this person charging this much and you're charging this much. A couple of peers who are looking to branch out into new fields of work and they're saying, how do you go about pricing this? And primarily from one of my friends who contacted me about doing some promotional work and was a little bit surprised when I responded, which sounds like a fantastic idea, but you're basically asking me to give away £1,000 worth of product. And that's prompted me to make this video where I try and explain how I price my work, and hopefully it is reflective of how photography is priced in general. Now, I'm always learning. I've only been in business for 3 years now, and my price reflects not only the cost of doing business, but also my experience and the time and effort that goes into making that work. It's really hard to find out information from other photographers. Part of the job, it seems, is hiding pricing behind inquiry forms or behind paywalls, such as training and development for businesses. Making this video is part of my commitment to trying to make it a bit more transparent. So if you're looking for a photographer, you know what to expect when you are approaching about costing. It also gives you a bit more insight into what goes on behind the scenes, so you feel comfortable in what you are being quoted. And it gives you a bit more of an insight into expectations around what can be achieved for different budgets and different times. So what is my price? Well, for this video, we're going to be concentrating on this section, which is standard rates. And essentially everything that I do is based off a basic rate of £125 per hour. And how did I decide that that's going to be my base rate? So I wanted to try and address that in 3 sections. The first one being equipment. So this is the upfront cost for any photographer just to be able to turn up at the job. Second one being time commitments. So that includes the shoot itself, but also all the pre-production and post-production. And then the last one will be a bit of a subjective topic, and that is quality of work. So that is, how well is a brief met? What can the images be used for? How can they be used? And also outside, more objective qualification of that work. So hopefully it'll turn out to be a useful video for new photographers who are trying to position themselves in the market and don't really know what they should be taking into account. And also for those who are commissioning photographers and thinking, oh, that sounds very cheap or that sounds very expensive. It gives you a bit of a rule of thumb for how much time, effort, equipment, risk goes into actually pitching for work and delivering that work. So, equipment. And through the magic of editing, I'm going to show you what's in my bag and what's in the studio and give you a bit of a breakdown of what that costs and how I factor that into my price. So the first thing we're going to look at is equipment and services. We've got camera, battery grip and additional battery, standard zoom lens, 50mm prime, telephoto zoom, portrait lens, hot shoe flashes. This is for on camera and off camera. And that is the basic kit, but we need a remote trigger, tethering cable that connects to the laptop so you can view the images as you're shooting them, battery powered studio flash, spare battery for the flash, diffusers for the hot shoes, a duster for keeping the camera clean, remote for the camera when you're not behind it, gels for adjusting the lighting, spare battery for the camera, cleaning kit for the camera, spare batteries for the remotes, and a grey card to balance the colour. That's pretty much the basic kit that I pack into my bag for every job, and the bag. Now for editing, I use a MacBook Pro mouse, got a spare hard drive for them big jobs, cleaning stuff for the screen, 4 memory cards because you fill them up quick, and the most important stuff, lint roller and a steamer. So altogether that is like basically 8.5 grand's worth of stuff, which is just a basic carry bag. So on top of that, we've also got a backup drive, equipment trolley to store everything, softbox and light stand, pop-up background, a normal background and a stand for it, a chair for people to sit on, and then the things that I've not been able to show in the video. This is a list of all the different stands, umbrellas, soft boxes, equipment racks, reflectors, things like that. And finally, services, we've got Adobe subscription, online backup, insurances. So everything what you've seen in the studio shots and everything from these lists is another 4.5 grand's worth of kit. And once you factor in that generally you need to replace it every 3 years, you're looking at 14 grand's worth of equipment, but that's about £4,750 that you've got to find every year. So now you've seen the equipment, everything that goes into my bag and everything that I have at hand, you'll notice it's not the be all and end all. It's not taking into account studio space, large setups for big groups of people or large products. It's not taking into account props or specific colours of backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. So it is very much a baseline. Now I wanted to talk about the time that goes into it. So through the magic of editing, again, I'm going to take a picture of myself and we're going to work that image and give you a bit of an idea about how much time goes into each single image. So I'm going to do a quick editing example. This is me loading up images. Now I've speeded it up because you don't need to sit here for however long. And we're going to do a quick edit on one image. Now, when I'm working for a client, the first thing I do is I go through, find the images that I want to keep, reject the ones that have like minor errors or don't necessarily look that good. Then we're concentrating on picking colour tone and then adjusting that colour tone to suit the brief. We're going to look in quite close and adjust the texture detail. Some people want a softer image, other images suit being sharper and clearer. So one of the benefits is you can apply that initial edit across the whole selection of images that you've made, but the individual changes such as the dust removal and light reflections and blemishes and stray hairs, things like that, all have to be done by hand on a per image basis. Some tiny little white marks which have come from the flash bouncing off the glasses. Now because they're very minor, I can go in and fix them, but I'll also go in and make up for things that got overlooked during the shoot. So unfortunately I didn't clean my glasses before I did this, so I have to go in and remove all the dust particles off the glasses. Here I'm just going in and removing stray hairs. So I've actually done that edit at 10 times speed. That was a 2-minute section of this video. You're looking at around 15 to 20 minutes for a single image. You can see from the clock in the video, once you start getting up to 30 or 40 images that you're delivering, you're looking at quite a significant amount of time spent on editing. So the final section is all about image quality. Now, this is a very subjective method of determining price and value for the product, but when you break it down into fairly objective categories, it becomes a little bit easier to measure. So I would say the first one is what kind of publications, competitions, recognition, qualifications has that individual got? For myself, I consider the fact I've been published by British Journal of Photography and by Ranking, my degree, my years of experience and background, and also the quality of my website and the images that I put on there. I feel, just by putting them out there and the fact that I talk about them, I feel confident in them as being objective means of judging the quality of my work. But also there is how you measure the images upon completion. Do they meet the brief? And not just do they meet the brief as in, are they photographs of what you requested, but did you specify certain colours? Did you specify certain dimensions of the image? Do they meet them? If they don't meet them, how are they resolved? I did an entire job with a shift in the colour on the background, but it wasn't good for the client. My response was within an hour, and I had the complete work redone within the day. And for me, I feel that shows my commitment to ensuring that the quality is to their standard. You may find that isn't that important to you. You might be able to rework it yourself. You might not have a predetermined colour. Your image dimensions might not matter because you're not refining the loading of a website to the nth degree. But if they are important to you, they're a really good way of measuring. Another way of measuring that is not necessarily objective, but it can be categorized, and that is the feel and look of images. So are you looking for a family friendly feel? Do you want something edgy? Does it need to be cinematic? Does it need to be focused on a specific thing, shown off to its best capabilities? Looking for, are there marks, fingerprints, hairs, anything like that on the actual product being sold? Is the person being depicted, have they got hair across the face, which doesn't add to the look, but it just looks distracting? Is the light bouncing off the glasses? This is a really common issue that I see really often, and often it's just fixed by slightly repositioning the glasses. Now hopefully, because I can't see this video, I've shown how you can do that, but again, these little things are all indicators of quality that you can measure. This little section is a little bit waffly and a little bit or stop-start, because one, it isn't a hard and fast, this is the set of rules, this is how you measure quality. It is a very subjective thing, and I'm sure if other photographers will say, well, you know, the occasional hair and the occasional reflection in the glasses are going to happen, and it does. And a lot of that is down to the amount of time that you allocate to something. So we can go back to my other section, how much time I put into prepping, how much time I put into the actual session itself, and then into the editing afterwards. If you want a photographer who's going to do 20 headshots in an hour, you will end up with reflections in glasses and hair across the face and dust on the clothing and all these kind of things. So when I say to people that I won't do less than 15 to 20 minutes per person, it's not me trying to expand out my quote, it's to ensure that I've got the time to help that person feel comfortable, clean up the clothes, clean up the glasses, that kind of thing. So hopefully through those three sections you can see how it brings together this like structure of deciding a pricing. So how do I calculate that £125? We've got a significant amount of upfront cost in equipment, which typically needs replacing on around a 3-year basis. The second part, the time involved, I will consider an hour's photography resulting in 4 to 5 or even maybe 6 hours worth of editing. We've also got pre-production, so that could be anything from a half-hour phone call right through to 4 hours of research, documentation and conceptualizing. That 1 hour where you're booking someone needs to cover that amount of time, what's involved in the process. And finally, we have to take into account the amount of hours that we can work in a year. For that, what I'll do is I take the amount of yearly cost on equipment, I add in around £3,000 for travel expenses. Then I take into account that it's 4 or 5 hours per hour of booking and around 1 to 4 hours of planning per brief. That £125 has to cover around 6 hours worth of work, plus the equipment and the travel, and hopefully a little bit of a margin. The way I work that out is there's 52 weeks in a year, but if we want to give ourselves a little bit of time, let's say 48. If we plan for around 40 hours, that's not including travel time. And if it's 6 hours per booked hour, that gives us roughly 320 billable hours per year. Now I'm aiming hopefully for around £30,000 per year as a salary. So once you divide that out by the 320, that gives you 93.75 and 25 quid per hour to cover the equipment costs and travel costs. So That gives us £118.75. And it leaves me with around £7. And that £7 has got to account for investment into marketing. It's got to account for any discounts that I offer. And it's also got to account for the quality of output of work, the follow-up, the correction of errors, the continuous customer service that goes into it. And I think that's about it. My voice is starting to go. I've not been speaking long to you guys, but I've just crossed the 20-minute mark because of all the mistakes that I've made. And there's another, but it's staying in. If you found it useful, brilliant. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you think I'm way off or I could do better, I'm all for that feedback. Like I say, I've been doing this now for about 3 years and I think I've got it dialed in pretty good, but I'm always looking to do better. So thank you.